To be or not to bop? That is the question. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode here of To Be or Not to Bop. In this episode, we're gonna focus on a musician that you definitely know, I hope you know, because we all know and love the great Miles Davis. Either you love him or you hate him, but we're not gonna get into all of that controversy. Today, we're gonna get into one of my favorite recordings of his. Miles Davis, Volume 1. Now, from a personal perspective, this is a super important recording for me because this is actually one of the first jazz records I ever heard in my life when I was a teenager, many, many moons ago. So it's one that is so important to me, so special to me. I've been hearing it my whole life, so I have such a deep-rooted love for this record. So like I said before, we're not going to get into the complete history of Miles Davis. This isn't a retrospective about him so much, but more about his playing style and his particular style on this recording. I think it is a pivotal point in his career and a pivotal moment in early to mid bebop and early hard bop. I think these records, Miles Davis Volume 1 and 2, pretty much set the stage for hard bop and all the things to come after that. So we're gonna get into this. All right, let's hear a little more from the great Miles Davis.
And me meeting Sonny Stitt with the McLean cotton pickers, because my mother would let me go with him, you know. But I heard Dizzy, Art Blakey, Bird, Lucky Thompson, Sarah, Gene Ammons. I heard all of them at once. I said, that's the most fun I ever had with my clothes on. I said, God damn, can you imagine that? Now I'm 15. But see, we were on the verge of that anyway. I knew they were playing, but I mean, it wasn't Dizzy first. It was the whole thing together. Like, bam, here's what you want to be, you know? And my head just carried me right to Bird and Dizzy. Another trumpet player named Buddy Anderson. So Buddy had a hemorrhage, and I joined B's band for that week. That's what it's not shock, but you know when you see somebody, say you're wearing some clothes, and you don't know whether you should wear a long coat to your knee, or a short coat, and you see somebody that has on a short coat, and you like the way they look, then it makes up your mind, you know? That only put a stamp on what I wanted to do.
All right, there you heard it, the great Miles Davis talking about when the bebop wave hit him. So as we get into this today, we're gonna go over just 3 of the tracks from the record. 3 that I feel are pretty impactful, pretty swinging, and just all around incredible. All right, those 3 tracks are gonna be Chance It, Dear Old Stockholm, and Donna, also known as Dig. So now we're gonna dive into the first track, and that track is Dear Old Stockholm. Let's hear it. All right, so if you ever go out and cop this record, you know, one thing to keep in mind is that this is multiple sessions over the course of 2 years, over the course of 2 years, all right? Let's stop the track here for a second. Okay, so on this particular session, this is from May 9th, 1952. We're listening to Miles Davis, of course, J.J. Johnson, Jackie McLean, Gil Coggins, the great Oscar Pettiford, and Kenny Clarke, Kluke, all right? So this is Dear Old Stockholm. So let's hear what they do with this. I love this tempo. Sometimes when I try to play this song at a session or a jam session, people think I'm crazy for counting it off at this tempo. But this is what some might call a grown folks tempo. And you know, one thing to think about here, if you're a student of Miles, and you know, we'll play some clips of him talking about this particular period too. He is greatly influenced by Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker, the ultimate virtuosos of music, and both as technicians on their instruments, genius harmonically, just complete virtuosos. So he's a young man developing at this stage. And so one of the things you hear in Miles's style at this point, he really takes his time. He's playing in the sweet spot, middle of the horn, not necessarily screaming and playing super fast and these torrid tempos that we usually hear from Diz and Bird. You know, one of his early influences was the great Freddie Webster. Check out some Freddie Webster if you can, and you'll definitely hear where Miles's concept is coming from. So real sweet playing. Let's put it back. Beautiful sound. Now, Miles is synonymous for no vibrato, but you can hear a little bit of vibrato at this point in his career, in his phrasing and in his sound. You know, another thing that comes to my mind too when I hear Miles in this period, the pacing of the phrasing to me is giving Lester Young for sure. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna stop there before we get to J Mac. Beautiful, easy phrasing, gorgeous tone, great pacing, almost a conversational style of playing. These are things we know about Miles Davis, but it's interesting to hear it at this point in his career. This is really before he's a big star, all right? This is early Blue Note. You know, a lot of times we don't really think about Miles Davis on Blue Note. We think of Miles Davis on Columbia and Prestige, the great Prestige date. It's the great Columbia dates, but this is before the explosion and before he really hits his peak. With that being said, let's hear a little bit of an evolved version. So this is 1952 that we heard, a 1952 version of Dear Old Stockholm, but let's check out this version 3 years later, 1955, with his first great quintet, John Coltrane on the tenor saxophone, the great Paul Chambers on the bass, Philly Joe Jones, once again, you know we love Philly on this show, and the great Red Garland on the piano. All right, let's hear this version. All right, ready? A little faster, not too fast, but. So still real smooth and chill. Just putting in that harmon mute. The mute that he made famous. When I talk to people about trumpet and mutes, they always say, what's the Miles Davis mute? That's the harmon mute. Now this is my favorite rhythm section of all time. Philly Joe Jones, PC, Red Garland. All right, but that's that record. We're gonna go back to Miles Volume 1, all right? Just want you to hear that evolution. You know, that's another staple of Miles Davis. You're gonna hear repertoire played over the course of many years. You hear it develop. I think you'll hear his development, and you'll also hear the treatment of other rhythm sections over the years and how they play these songs. But it's always an interesting thing. I tell trumpet students all the time, get your repertoire that you really get into and learn to develop it and develop things that you do on these songs, because when you have performances, these are the songs you play. And so Miles is really one of the great examples of that. So that's Dear Old Stockholm. Just for fun, let's hear the original version of Dear Old Stockholm. All right, this is from 1916. Joel Mossberg. If you know more about this artist, drop it in the comments. Okay. That's one of the things I'm really enjoying about doing this show so far, is I talk about things on here to educate you, but I'm being educated by so many great devout jazz fans and listeners, and they're telling me about a bunch of things I didn't know. So let me know what you know about this original recording of Dear Old Stockholm. But we'll stop it there. It's always interesting to hear the repertoire and the music that the beboppers grew up listening to. So when they get to the point that they are artists, they're playing these popular songs or songs that used to be popular and making it their own. So I think that's pretty cool to hear the evolution of it all. All right, so that's Dear Old Stockholm. All right, so this next track is Donna, most popularly known under the name of Dig. Okay, and this is a contrafact. For those of you who don't know, a contrafact is basically a fancy word for a remix. So this is when a bebop musician or a musician takes an existing song and writes his own melody over the chord changes of this song. So this is one of the more popular ones here, entitled Dig or Donna. So let's check out Miles on this one. Here we go. Pettiford. I'll stop it here real quick. Again, you know, some people might say it's a slow tempo. And, you know, I'll play an updated version of this that Miles recorded maybe a few years later, where they play it much faster. So some people might call this a slower tempo, but I call this a groove pocket tempo. So this one is right in the pocket. You could dance to this, all right? So, you know, a lot of times with these bebop melodies, because there are a lot of notes, we get this urge to want to play it real fast, which is fun. There's definitely a place for that. We definitely should do that. I'm not saying we should play these things fast, but it's great to just learn how to get a pocket on these things. And I mean, Oscar Pettiford and Kenny Clarke, let's just hear what they're doing with that tempo. Check out Pettiford right here. Woo! Phrasing. I'm gonna stop right there. That phrasing. Beautiful quarter notes. That could be a tap dance solo right there. Let's just go back. I want to hear a little bit of that one more time. Check out Miles one more time in there. You know, Miles will say, well, he did say that everyone, all the trumpet players owe a great debt to the great Louis Armstrong, but you could hear some Armstrong in this playing right there, just the way he plays those quarter notes. Ba, 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 bido, bido, boo, beep, beep, beep. Same kind of placement on the beat. Let's hit it back. Yep. It's my favorite line on here. Excellent. Just, beautiful music making, you know, and this is bebop too. Bebop isn't just fast, torrid tempos. It's just pocket and groove, and you hear it. You hear it with Miles there. Let's go into some J-Mac. I love me some Jackie McLean, especially early Jackie McLean. So let's check out his solo here. Okay, just so that phrase right there, if you check out Charlie Parker, Jazz at the Philharmonic, 1946, they play Sweet Georgia Brown, which is what this song is based on, and Bird plays that line. All right, so let's go back to the beginning here. Jackie starts the whole thing with it. Oh, that's a beautiful line. Yeah. There you go. Nice and simple. All right, so we heard Miles on that one. We heard Jackie. No piano solo, no drum solo, no bass solo. Well, we have some Oscar Pettiford moments in there, but what a great composition. What a great feeling that you get from this record. To me, this is just really essential Miles Davis. The lyricism, the time feel. It's just, to me, so accessible. You don't have to be a huge jazz fan or a bebop lover to just enjoy the brilliance. This is just brilliant music making here. All right, so that's Dig or Donna. All right, let's hear the faster version actually, just for context. Interesting thing, this one was recorded first, so he played it fast before he recorded that 1952 version. Sonny Rollins. All right. So I love it. That was a choice to play it. It wasn't so much an evolution as much as maybe just a musical choice to play it a little bit faster. Let's jump ahead. You're gonna hear that every time he plays that. Every time he plays this song, he plays that solo, he plays that line. All right. So that's a good, yeah, that's a good place to end on that one. Dig, Donna, Miles Davis. All right, before we go on to the next track, actually, I want to talk a little bit about Miles Davis and drummers. I really feel like so much of Miles Davis's style and career is dictated by the drummers he plays with. I think there's just a strong synergy, a strong spiritual connection to Miles Davis and the drums and to the drummers that he's played with. And they've just been the greats of the music. Max Roach, Kenny Clarke, Art Blakey, Philly Joe Jones, Jimmy Cobb, Tony Williams, Jack DeJohnette, and so on and so forth. When we're talking about the evolution of his music, I really feel like it really comes down to his relationship with the drummer. Let's hear Miles talk a little bit about the drums. And this is much later on. This is in 1989. Let's hear this. Here we go.
Ricky, my drummer from Washington, he pioneered that beat. Mm-hmm. But I like Terry Riley.
Teddy Riley, yeah.
Teddy
producer,
Riley.
Member of Guy.
Yeah.
And Prerogative fame.
And I like Bobby Brown. Mm-hmm. But,
Bobby Brown.
But all the drummers I get, I tell them, it must be a beat in between the beat. Mm-hmm. You know, Prince says, get up on the one. It's got to be a beat in between. Bobby and them, Terry has it with, I think he has it with the turntable.
Yeah, the scratching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. You gotta get that sound in between.
Yeah. It's interesting.
That's it right there. To me, that is everything. That is what bebop is all about. The beat in between the beat. I'll let you ponder that. All right, so now this is the main event for me. The last track we're gonna focus on today is a song entitled Chance It. That's the way it's entitled on the record, Chance It. But if you look throughout the history of Miles Davis performing this song and other great bebop musicians performing this song, it comes under a few different names. One being Max is Making Wax, and another one being Something for You, under a recording date led by the great Oscar Pettiford, who is on this recording date. So I wonder if this is one of the main reasons why Miles started recording this one and starting playing it, all right? So this for me is an absolute masterpiece. Whenever I teach ensembles all around, this is an arrangement. I try to teach them to play it by ear. One of the things I love about it, it is a rhythm changes bebop form that we all play, but it's a little bit different. It has a lot of extra little things in there. Some of the characteristics that I love is we don't go back, it's not your traditional AABA with an intro. So the form isn't traditionally how a lot of bebop melody forms work. They play the melody, but when they go back to the end, they never go back to the melody. So let's get into it. I really want you guys to dig this one because this is one of my all-time favorite songs. I've been playing this for years. On my first gig as a leader at Smalls and Dizzy's and all these places, I played this one with my band. So it is really a treat. I've loved it for so many years. So without further ado, Chance It. Check out this interlude. I really like how in that interlude it really sets the stage for Miles or the trumpet soloist or for that particular soloist in the way it's written. It's really an announcement that we have a solo coming up. Let's go back to it real quick. All right, here we go. Bang, bang. Oh. Flute. Yeah. Go ahead, Jackie. And they split up the solos here. So the alto, Jackie McLean gets the A section. Now we got JJ on the bridge. Yeah. Yep, and then you got JJ on the bridge and the last A. So let's see what they do with the rest of it. Miles comes back in. All right, I'm gonna stop it right there because this is my favorite part. I can't listen to this one without playing along because this is just seriously, for almost half my life I've been listening to this recording and I get a chill whenever I listen to this. All right. So remember how I talked about before, the beginning of the song. So that's the melody, but they don't go back to the melody at the end. They do what we call the shout chorus, or some people call it the pep chorus. All right. Super exciting. All right. All right. Hold on. Let's let it lead up. Chance it. All right, so on this particular recording, you'll hear an alternate take on it. I'll let you guys check that out for yourself. But I thought it would be cool to just hear some of the earlier and later versions of this song. Let's hear the Oscar Pettiford version. I always tell people or students in ensembles, bebop comes out of swing music, swing band music. So even though there are a lot of notes and a lot going on, you gotta have a good dance feel to it. That has to be in the back of your mind. So when you hear this original arrangement of Chance It or Max is Making Wax, in this case, Something for You, you can hear all the elements of dance music in it. Let's check it out. Boom, boom. right, so there we go. I would play that whole recording for you, but we'll say that for another time. And then let's hear that same song with the later version of Miles's quintet with John Coltrane, Red Garland, Paul Chambers, and the great Philly Joe Jones. All right, they played a little bit faster. Red Garland in the back. So same arrangement, a little bit brighter. Let's jump ahead to Trane, because the Trane solo on this is crazy. Yeah. All right, here's the Trane solo. Early Trane, 1955. You hear all the Charlie Parker, all the bebop influence. Here it is. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna jump ahead to that shout chorus. Philly Joe. Bang. Huh. Chance it. So as you can tell from this recording, Miles Davis is at a stage in his career where he is starting to develop his identity. He's starting to develop his repertoire, his feel for putting together top-tier bands, legendary, really, bands of the bebop era. He was destined for so many great things, but in this particular recording, you're really getting to hear where it all started and where it all started to come together. Thanks so much for checking out this episode of To Be or Not to Bop. We hope you enjoyed exploring Miles Davis Volume 1. Let us know what you think. Drop something in the comments. And also don't forget to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. We'll see you soon. To be or not to bop? That is the question.